impressive. This man has held 6 different belts. The only team to win all 3 major belts. The Crockett Cup, this man's a legend in his sport.
How am I not going to like this guy, right? He knows everything.
Now, I want to ask you one question. Welcome to another edition of Hero Television. I'm your host, P.L. Myers, along with my co-host, John G. We're here on the set.
This is like Mecca.
Do you know who's behind that?
Well, he's not actually in there now, is he?
Jim told me he's in there.
Well,
he's sleeping.
All right, well, then we got to be quiet.
Okay.
Which is hard for us.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you're from Chicago, you're watching this on YouTube, Facebook, anything, this is the set of the man, the myth, the legend, Svengoolie, or as we like to say, from Berwyn.
This is like walking into Yankee Stadium.
This is.
I mean, this is really as cool as it gets.
And he's been on for next year, in 2019, will be 40 years he's been doing this.
So he started when you were what, like 30?
Yeah, 30.
Something
I
like
think
that.
that's how it is. So ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be interviewing the man, the myth, the legend, the man behind the paint, Rich Koz. So
I can't wait.
Sit back for another edition of Hero Television.
Hi, I'm Elliot Serrano, and you're watching Hero TV.
Welcome to a very special edition of Hero Television. I'm your host, P.L. Myers, along with my co-host, John G., and we have the man, the myth, the legend, Chicago icon, I'd have to say universal icon, horror host, Stoojapalooza host, jack of all trades, master of everything, not of none, of everything, because he does everything, along with his partner in crime, the man behind the camera. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to introduce once again Rich Koz. Thank you so much for coming on Hero Television.
I'm happy to be here, Paul, and it's nice to have you here on our Svengoolie set, our official set here at Weigel Broadcasting here in Chicago.
When is it going to be changing to Koz Broadcasting Services?
Judging from the amount of money I have, not soon.
Okay. Well, for the viewers out there, they know you for everything that you do now on all the different channels. It's just before, when you started, it was Son of Svengoolie. Mm-hmm. And before that, and now you're doing everything on all the different Me TVs, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. When's the Rich Koz channel coming? That's what I want to know.
Well, I don't think we're going to be doing that. We're doing well with Me TV. Now, Me TV is all over the country. We're in, I think, 95% of the country now. And then we rerun the shows on WCIU on Saturday mornings. And then I just help out with a lot of little things here and there on our various channels. And I'm content to let the other people own it and run it, as long as they continue to give me a job.
Well, you are definitely the face of Chicago television. And for the viewers out there that know you for all the things that you do, how did you get your start into broadcasting? And also, I know you did start out with radio. Mm-hmm. How did you get and decide to go down this path?
Well, actually, when I was in high school, I was at Maine East High School in Park Ridge, and they had a real FM station there, WMTH, and I was always interested in radio, and I loved disc jockeys, and I thought that would be a fun job, and got involved with that, and then moved on. I was going to Northwestern and did radio there, and around that time was when the original Svengoolie, Jerry G. Bishop, was doing his Friday night show, Svengoolie. He started out just as a staff announcer, started goofing around doing the character, and it eventually built into him, doing the on-camera show. And he would read jokes that people sent in. And I was a fan of his from his radio stuff and TV stuff, so I just started sending him jokes and stuff, and he found out that I was a broadcasting student, and he said, oh, okay, why don't you come down and watch this tape? And I did that, and he said, oh, you do voices? Why don't you do this off-camera voice here? And he started to ask for specific material, like, can you do a parody of this commercial that was running at the time, things like that, and parodies of songs. And I ended up working with him there when he was canceled from Channel 32 and went to Channel 5 and WMAQ. I went with him there and worked with him on the radio. And then one summer, a friend of his in broadcasting said to him, you want to just do Svengoolie for the summer, just as a fill-in thing for us? And he was like, well, I don't really want to get dressed up in that stuff anymore. He said, and he turns to me and says, you could do it. You could be Son of Svengoolie, and I would just produce. And, I was very flattered, and still am, that he felt that I'd be able to handle it and would do a good job on it. And we had some false starts on it. Nothing ever happened with it. And Jerry ended up moving out to San Diego. And when he left, he said, so what are you going to do? And I said, well, maybe I'll try to pitch some TV station on a show. And he said, I tell you what, if you want to do the Son of Svengoolie thing, you have my blessing, go ahead. So I shopped it around. I always like to mention that I talked to one of the program directors at one of the stations, told him what I wanted to do. He laughed at me and hung up. I don't know where he is now. But eventually talked to the people at WFLD, where Jerry's original show ran, and they said, oh, this is a good idea, but let's have a bake-off and have all sorts of people try out for this job. And I said, well, I just brought you the full concept and everything. He's like, that's okay, everybody will audition. And there was an audition process and a lot of things went on back and forth, but finally I did end up getting the job, and in 1979 I became the official on-air Son of Svengoolie.
So you're coming up on 40 years next year as Svengoolie. When you think of everything that you've accomplished and you step back, what do you see? Because, I mean, the fans that love you, the figures, the T-shirts. I mean, this is not just a Chicago thing. This is a universal thing. You have celebrities wear your shirts. Everyone looks to you as the guy. What do you see? Because I know what John and I see.
Well, I feel, first of all, that I'm very fortunate. I mean, I'm very lucky, and I owe a lot to Jerry for having the confidence in me to think that I'd be able to pull this off. But I think the one thing, you mentioned the fans, the thing that really has impressed me the most is that what I do means something to people. That these people will come up to me when I do appearances, and they'll thank me for still doing the show and for what I've always done. And just the fact that it means so much to them really pretty much is what's important to me. I feel like maybe I've actually done something and had an effect on people. And I know it's not a big major thing. All I did was make them laugh. But if it, did something to make their lives a little happier, that's great.
Well, you can see by all your appearances you have, because, I mean, I've never seen, tattoos to drawings to everything. I mean, if they didn't like you, they would have turned off the television.
I think so, yeah, and that's just it, because there are people that say, oh, how come you're still around? There are certain detractors here and there, and I think everybody has those. And it's like, I said, the thing is, I've been on broadcast television for this length of time, and, if you cannot get ratings and cannot, have an effect, stations don't keep you around. They're very quick to say, we can save a lot of money by having you leave. So, I feel like, I've been a worthwhile commodity, at least, to these stations, and I'm happy to still be working.
You brought up conventions. I've seen you at conventions. I've seen the lines for the people coming to see you at conventions. Most of the time, you outdraw actually most of the celebrities. But has there been anybody at the conventions that you really were impressed by?
Oh, wow. There's several people. Last time we were at C2E2, the big comics and entertainment convention, I was waiting behind the curtain in the back area to go out and start my signing, waiting for Jim Roach to introduce me to the crowd before I came out. And while I'm standing back there, they've always got like the golf carts going back and forth, ushering people to their places and such. And a golf cart is coming by, and a guy sitting in there yells, "Svengoolie, SpongeBob loves you." And I'm thinking, okay. And then I'm looking at him. It was Tom Kenny, the voice of SpongeBob. And it's like out of nowhere, he was just, a big fan. And I caught up with him later on. Turns out he has relatives in this area, and he's been a longtime fan of the show. And it was just so cool to meet him. Another one was Will Wheaton, who, I just, gone back and forth with a couple times on Twitter. And when we met at one of the C2E2s, I was just amazed at how thrilled he was to see me. And that's very flattering to me.
I've heard it actually from some of the wrestlers were very excited about meeting Svengoolie. But there's a lot of horror hosts out there. Paul and I certainly think, and millions of people think, that you are at the top of the peak. What do you think makes for a good horror host as opposed to just a guy doing the job?
Well, I think you've got to actually add something worthwhile to the movie, because stations have often said, we could just run the movie without a host and get the same ratings, if not better, depending on who the person is. You've got to be really contributing something to the entertainment factor, and hopefully, have the skill to do that. There are some people who do these shows because they're fans of the shows, and, I may be a fan of opera, but I can't sing opera. So you've got to, hopefully have some talent and be able to add some additional entertainment to the overall presentation of the movie.
And with the fans that watch you week after week after week with all the different movies, they might not know how the preparation time, how long does it take to put into one show?
Well, it's kind of drawn out, and I can't keep exact track of it just because as we're starting to work on a new show, we're also doing the work to finish up the old shows. And the basic way that things work is I'll get a movie, I'll start screening it, and while I'm screening it, I take real careful notes about it. While I'm taking those notes and screening it is when I will break it down into the various movie segments and also figure out, if I can time-wise, if it's too long for our time slot, what to take out and what to edit out. And then after I've taken all those notes, the next thing to do would be to write it and, come up with ideas for things. And along the way, I also will get in touch with our Doug Sharp, who does the music for us, guy I've known since high school and has worked with me on all my shows. And I'll figure out some song, and I'll tell him, okay, this is how much of that song we're going to do. At the time, I haven't written it, so we just know this will work. And when he comes into the station, we rehearse it once and then we record it, and that's the first time we actually do it together. But we get all the stuff written, hand out the scripts to everybody. Our audio guy Chaz will, get all the carts in line, the little sound effects that we use, and then we come into the studio. We shoot everything in a few days, because usually we're working on anywhere from 2 to 4 shows for the future, and we'll shoot one day, be off one day, shoot one day, that type of thing. Then when we finish that, that's when we do the post-production, which is finding the little different clips to go in various places in the bits that we recorded, and additional sound effects or anything else that we need. And while I'm doing that, I'm already starting on the next one of the movies. So that's why it's hard for me to give an exact timeline of how long it takes to do the show.
Wow, and on top of it, with putting that show together, how many shows do you produce a year?
It varies depending on what we can get. We've done as few as, 14 maybe, and at other times we all the way up to 24. Wow. And the real problem these days is movies are not as easy to get as they used to be. Back when I started, there were all these distributors who would offer you all these packages of horror movies, and these days there's a real competition for it because of cable and online, what would you call them, networks, I guess. And some movies are not even offered anymore. I have no idea where they are or who has them, but there's a lot of competition, and they've gotten more expensive as well.
Now, you've done hundreds and hundreds of shows. Mm-hmm. Is there anyone that you think, wow, I really hit one out of the park on that one? Is there anyone that really sticks out as a favorite of yours?
Well, I don't know. There's one special we did that I really liked. Was we had the pilot episode of Star Trek, The Cage, and we produced bits to go around that with information as well as comedy stuff, and it got a huge rating and was very, very popular, and I think we really did quite well with that. And it seems to me every time we run Abbott and Costello Meets Frankenstein, it's a favorite movie. We get so many requests for that, and it's nice to see that people appreciate that. Just this past weekend, we ran a movie we've never run before, Return of the Vampire. It's Bela Lugosi, and actually it was supposed to be kind of a sequel to the original Dracula, but it was done by Columbia, and Universal had the rights to the Dracula character, so they couldn't call him Dracula. But it was a real good show. It turned out very well. We did interviews with people from the original Fright Night movie, and we showed some stuff from when I was at the Windy City Thunderbolts baseball game. And overall, it was a real fun show, and I think we did real well with that. See, you talked about hitting one out of the park, and there's baseball there.
Nice time. So you've you're busy all the time, is what I'm trying to say. So you see a lot of movies out currently. Is there any, when you're watching a movie, does your mind immediately start going into what I can say, how I could produce that?
Well, with a lot of the movies that are out now, there's no way we could show them because of the gore and some of the really, really kind of tense stuff that's in it. Because MeTV is considered, kind of family-friendly television, and we have to be careful what we show. And, if something is too intense, we would actually have to cut it out. So most of the time when I just see a movie nowadays, I'm watching it for entertainment. And, it'll be great if I someday could run some of these movies, but like I said, some of the content makes that a little difficult.
Well, as you can see, we've been spending time with Rich Koz here. We're going to be right back with more as we spend a day, an evening in here in the, is this the laboratory?
This is like the Dungeon Studio,
The
more
Dungeon
or less.
Studios. We'll be right back with more of Hero Television as we're talking to Rich Koz, Chicago icon here on Hero TV.
Hi, this is Kevin Matthews, and you're watching Hero TV.
Welcome back to Hero Television as we're here with, as I said, we have a lot of guests over the years, and I've been doing this show 20 plus years, 22 years on Comcast, but for Continental Cablevision, Media One, whenever it was. And, you know, I've had a pleasure to interview so many different celebrities, so many different guests, but there's one person that has really touched Chicago. It's been you, because, as I said, you meet your heroes, and that's why we call it Hero TV, to get insights into different people and their careers. So people say, hey, I want to get into this, but you are, from what I've known, genuine inside and out. It's not like, oh, well, I'm Svengoolie, I deserve this, and but there are celebrities that have that feeling of that. But for you, as I said, with the people that help you out, like we were just talking to your partner in crime, what do you say? Is he your Robin, or is he your?
Well, actually, he's my executive producer.
Yes.
So
he pulls a puppet string.
Yeah, and he's kind of the Abbott to my Costello, I guess.
So on the equal footing, because of the fans see him out there, and again, great guy. When I've met him quite a few different events, he's always great with the fans. He's not pushy. He's like, hey, let me make sure everything gets done. For the people that know him like you, what does he bring to the whole production of this?
Well, he's really kind of the glue that holds everything together. He watches over all aspects of the program and makes sure we have everything we need. When I do the appearances, he's, my right-hand man, and I would have a heck of a time doing it without him. He helps keep all the facts organized of where we've got to be, what we need. He lets the people who are hiring us know what we need and where we have to be. He when we're doing the stuff, he helps, I don't want to say security, but in a way he does. And
we've been thrown out by him, so we know how it is.
That's why I didn't want to call it security. But he helps, the lines are pretty long, as you mentioned, John, and he'll walk up and down and try to entertain people and keep them excited so they're just not standing in line like this for, 2 hours. He helps keep everything rolling and keeping everything together, and he also brings me water, which is very helpful at times.
With all the different appearances, how many appearances do you think that you do in a year as Svengoolie?
Wow, I kind of lose track because, at first it used to always be I just do appearances around Halloween, but now we do stuff all year long.
40 appearances?
It's got to be more than that.
30
okay.
30 appearances.
Hard to tell, but yeah, we do quite a bit of stuff, and it's nice. There are things that we turn down too, because quite honestly, I think my history of my cardiac history. I don't want to overdo it, and I don't want to put too much stress on myself. And there are times when, especially around Halloween, we're getting inundated with stuff. This year I had to turn down an appearance with the Chicago Symphony Orchestra, just because we're so overbooked. And as much as I love them, and I would have loved to do it, we did things with them before. I got to be careful, I'd like to be around to do a few more years.
Now, you're extremely busy all the time. When you have, a minute or two, what does a Rich Koz like to do to relax or to have fun?
Well, first of all, it sounds silly, but I like to watch movies. Okay. I enjoy watching old movies, and I've been a big fan of those for a long time. I really like to travel, though I don't get as much chance as I normally do. One of the things I enjoy every year is with my family, we go over to the other side of the lake to Michigan, and that's a beautiful area there, right between South Haven and Saugatuck, and I always enjoy being around there, and usually we get to rent a place with some friends of ours that's right by the lake. And one of my favorite things to do is, at night, there's no light pollution there. You go out there and you can see all the stars and, watch for meteors and everything else. And it's just a real nice way to unwind, and I wish I could do it more often.
Now, you mentioned wrestling before, and a real brief, just a quick story on you. I was at a wrestling show where you were with a guest, and people actually drove up from St. Louis just to see you, and then they left. They saw you were the man they wanted to see. But anyway, on the topic of wrestling, I know you're a wrestling fan. Who are your guys, past and present?
Oh, man. Well, of course, I've got to mention my friend Jerry the King Lawler. He's a good friend, and I've always, enjoyed his comedy. He's so funny, and he's so quick. And I think, one of the reasons we get along is we both know the same old jokes. So, but he knows many more than I do, and he's good. When I was first watching, that goes back to the AWA, and it was Vern Gagne as the champion, and Wilbur Snyder, and Mad Dog Vachon, who I always thought was tremendous. What a great talent he was. And then for a long time, I didn't get to see anybody. And my brother said, hey, why don't you come on out to the UIC Pavilion? That was when WWE, then F, was first showing up there. And the first match that we saw was Mad Dog Vachon against Rene Goulet. But they were reversed from their usual roles that I knew, because Rene Goulet was the heel, and Mad Dog Vachon was the good guy. And I always remember at the end of the match, he took the microphone and said, Rene Goulet, you are nothing but a yellow dog. And it was so cool to see that. And that was the first times that I saw the Hart Foundation. I always thought Bret Hart was really terrific. Like seeing Shawn Michaels, like seeing him do his stuff. These days, I gotta say, AJ Styles, I think he's really tremendous. Some of the women wrestlers, again, they've really kind of, found their balance, and they do so well. A friend of mine is Zelina Vega, who used to be in Impact Wrestling and was Rosita, I think.
You were at
Yes, I met her the first time at an event with you. And it's really cool to see people who can do so much in the ring other than just look pretty. So it's great to see that, the women are doing so well. And, guys make me laugh. The New Day, they make me laugh, and I find them entertaining. So it's always fun to watch them.
And when you look at everything that you've done with this, there's also the other aspect of the other parts of MeTV that you do. What are those aspects that you've been working with them on? Because I know you did Stooge-a-Palooza and different ones. What things are you working on there?
Well, I get to do all of our social media stuff for the show, and at times I will help contribute to some of the promo stuff, contribute a voice or an idea or something like that. It's taken a lot of the work away from me that we have very talented people working on the promos and stuff there. So I get to mainly concentrate these days on the Sven show and just contribute a little bit to MeTV.
And when you were growing up, and also probably going on now, who are your heroes?
Boy, that's a good question. Comedians, I think, quite honestly. Jack Benny and Groucho Marx. Groucho Marx was like an idol of mine. And I really enjoyed. I remember at a real young age watching Jack Benny shows and really liking them. I didn't know why I liked them, because they were such quality and the writing was so good and the acting and everything. But I just remember as a little kid liking those Jack Benny shows, and once being over at my grandparents' house, and that came on, and I was just so happy to be able to see it. Mainly, I think that was it. My heroes were the comedians and the people I'd see in TV shows and, in the old movies on TV.
Now, you've been doing this, obviously, we've said, for years and years. Mm-hmm. What do you have left? What do you plan on doing? Is there any goals that you still have, any bucket list things?
That's hard to say, other than wanting to keep going for a while, quite honestly, because, we're probably at the height of our popularity now, and although I am retirement age, it's like I'd be an idiot to retire because it's going so well and I'm having such a good time. The goals would be more or less to, continue on this national level, and maybe to meet some of the people that I haven't met so far, like Mark Hamill. We've been in touch back and forth via phone calls and emails for a long time now. He contacted me a long time ago, and I didn't believe it was him, because I'm like, yeah, sure, you're Mark Hamill, you're a fan of my show. Sure, thanks, pal. But it was him, and there's a few of those people that I really want to meet up with. I want to be in Jerry Lawler's corner sometime when he does a wrestling event.
That could probably happen.
I think it probably could, yeah. You know, I'm just happy with the way things are. We're in the current issue of Mad Magazine. It's so cool. You know, it turned out that the publisher of DC Comics was a fan of ours and actually waited in line at one of my appearances to come up and meet me. And, you know, now Matt is published by DC Comics. And he had said, you know, we should do something where you're in it. And I said, sure, why not? And they did such a great job on it. If you get a chance to pick it up, it's issue number 4, on sale now. But that's stuff like that is just so cool. And the fact that, you know, I've been voted over and over again in the Rondo Awards, which are awards for science fiction and horror. And the thing is, they're voted on by the fans, so they really mean something. And I've won, like, I think 7 of those now, and as favorite horror host. And that's, you know, it's kind of overwhelming. But I feel like, you know, I've done something, like I said before.
Oh, absolutely. Of course you've done so. Do you ever see yourself passing the torch?
You know, I don't know necessarily that I would have a, you know, next relative of Svengoolie, because we talked about this a little bit. And when I had originally talked with Jerry, back when he was allowing me to do this, we'd kind of agreed that there wouldn't be another Svengoolie after me. But if the station wanted to have somebody else do horror movies and they wanted me to kind of help them move into that realm, I'd certainly be happy to do that and, you know, kind of pass the torch that way. But I don't think you're going to see somebody else as, you know, Svengoolie Volume 3 or something like that.
With everything that you do, what keeps you motivated? Because there are the high days where you're meeting all these celebrities and people are contacting you, and then there's days that, you know, God, I know I'm doing so much, so many different appearances, I'd rather be home, whatever. What keeps you motivated?
I think something that I mentioned earlier, the fact that it means something to people, and that this silly job I do and the silly stuff that I do is something that people really seem to hold dear, and it means a lot to them. And, you know, I feel like, you know, I want to continue to, you know, I feel like I owe them a good performance, and I owe them, you know, some, you know, having a good time. That's it, basically.
Well, all I know is that with all your fans out there, John and myself, you know, and the fans that see you week after week, we just, again, appreciate coming by the studio, you know, be here in the dungeon.
This is about as cool as it gets.
This is like our bucket list, because John and I were talking on our show, like, all right, who we got? This person. We're going to go meet Rich in the dungeon, or AKA Svengoolie.
Yeah, we don't agree on many things, but
Yeah,
we both agreed on this.
Yes, we might get a Rondo Award just from your appearance.
Ooh.
Yes, there you go.
I like awards.
So anything we can do, you know, you're always welcome. Anything you need to promote or plug, we'd love to have you back on.
Terrific.
And again, you know, we look forward to the next 40 plus years of Svengoolie. However it is, animatronic or however it is, whatever it is, we definitely appreciate. Truly a class act. Thank you again for coming on the show.
And we're gonna work on that Jerry Lawler thing.
Yes, we are. That's what we're working on for 2019.
All right, it's a deal.
So, on behalf of myself and John G., it's been an honor. It's been our pleasure to having once again Rich Koz, Svengoolie, jack of all trades, a Chicago icon, and lead I say, I know you don't live in Berwyn.
Berwyn? Why did you have to bring that up? Oh,
We're the chickens.
Yeah, we're the chickens. Well, there you have it, fans. Rich Koz, Svengoolie. Need I say more?
That was a thrill.
Also, we'd like to thank his partner in crime, his Abbott to Costello. All I can say is, for him, thank you so much for letting us come on the thing. Jim Roach, another class act guy.
Yeah, I mean, what else could you say? I mean, I'm so giddy.
The coffin's there.
The coffin, I know.
The coffin's there.
I know.
Well,
Can we try it later?
yes, we can try it later.
Not together, though.
Well, there you have it. I've been your host, P.L. Myers, John G. We'll see you next time here on Hero Television.